It was the year 1630 and Puritans were getting chased out of their homes by the English and decided, let's go to the New World where we'll build a city on top of the hill. And so they got on their little boats and did just that, where they lived happily ever after. Except they didn't. Instead, some 60 years later, suddenly everyone had become a witch and were persecuted by the Puritans, and then executed by hanging. These lovely times were known as the Solemn Witch Trials. Now fast forward another 200 years later, and in 1850 a young man by the name of Nathaniel Hawthorne decides to write about Puritans. And so the Scarlet Letter was born. Written in 1850, the book follows the life of a young woman named Hester Prynne. She's a married woman, however her spouse was in England and she hadn't heard from him in years. So being all alone without any warmth at night, one thing leads to another and 9 months later she has a child. Except it's not her husband's. Now, in today's society, adultery will get you some nasty comments and a few snickers behind your back, yet no law prohibits it. However, in Puritan society, that was a big no-no. So how did they deal with this? Being the kind and generous bunch the Puritans were, they usually decided to give your face a makeover by ironing a big old letter A on your forehead. But sometimes, if they felt extra generous, they might even give you the honor of entering the next life. Now, whether this next life was heaven or hell, no one really knows. However, our protagonist Hester is a woman with much luck. Instead, she simply had to sew a letter A on her bosom, and she gets temporarily thrown into a jail cell. No biggie really. That is, considering her other options. Now while in jail, her husband decides to show up. Yeah, no bueno. Now, as most men would be, he is pissed, or at least very disappointed. I don't really know, cause he says one thing, but at the end it sounds like he means another. For example, he states, "I shall see him tremble, I shall feel myself shudder suddenly and unaware. Sooner or later, he must needs be mine." Page 67. Which sounds like what a very pissed off man would say. But then, not even a page later, he declares, "Yet fear not for him. Think not that I shall interfere with heaven's own method of retribution, or to my own loss betray him to the gripe of human law. Neither do thou imagine that I shall contrive aught against his life. No, nor against his fame. If, as I judge, he be a man of fair repute, let him live. Let him hide himself in outward honor, if he may. Not the less, he shall be mine." And that's where he just completely confuses me. His statements contradict each other. He acts like he wants revenge, yet he says he will cause no harm, which perhaps is the fact of his Christian beliefs and his human nature clashing. Christians should hold no grudge or malintent towards another person. However, his human nature has made him furious and thirsting for revenge towards the person who ruined his marriage. One may ask, why go through all this trouble? He described how he enjoyed being with the Native Americans, so why doesn't he just pack his bags and go find himself a nice Native American wife and voila, problem solved. However, from his conversations with Hester, we know that to him, Hester was the unattainable. He was an old man in decay while she was a blossoming, beautiful flower. The two were of opposite poles. So, Chillingworth, he almost attained the unattainable, and at the last moment, he was robbed of it. So, it would make sense he would be so angry. At the end of chapter 4, Hester goes on to ask, "Why dost thou smile so at me?" troubled at the expression of his eyes. I believe this might be foreshadowing of Chillingworth's spiral into evil. He seems to be getting overwhelmed by his emotions. From the real world, I've observed that most people allow their actions to be dictated by their emotions. And so, eventually, I believe Chillingworth, like the human he is, will commit an evil act of revenge towards Dimmesdale, Hester, or maybe even Pearl. For there, he will just continue to spiral out of control. Chillingworth so far has been an interesting character in the way he portrays himself, and I'm very curious as how he will continue to develop as a character throughout the story.